trying to figure out something in my head, and maybe you can help me out, yeah? When a person is insanely hot, as Brad Pitt clearly is, does he know he's insanely hot? Maybe he's just sitting around reading Vanity Fair, masturbating to his own magazine cover. Does he stop and just go, wow, it's amazing how f***ing attractive I really am? I'd give all these sins back to the previous movie if Angelina Jolie showed up right now and chided Brad for being late while dinner gets cold, all while hiding a dangerous smirk thinking about her day's deadly work. It's really the half that gives us the true perspective of time.
You found a hair?
A hair? Wow.
It's at the lab.
Wow, in 30 seconds of hypnagogic pillow talk, Isabel's pretty much laid out the entire case against Rusty. Good thing for him, she didn't take an Ambien or whatever they do in Rome to get to sleep. Probably orgies. So I guess I should say, good thing for Rusty that Isabel didn't go to her Tuesday orgy earlier in the evening. That's better. Bellissimo!
What was your occupation?
I was a high school basketball coach.
And thus begins this somewhat enjoyable movie starting to believe it's a lot cleverer than it is. It's little things like this that really show that this crew is a bunch of believable liars. But we already know that, damn it. There's an interesting story in here that doesn't require the script and performances to be so goddamn precious about being them.
That's too oxblood.
This movie is like watching paint dry is the phrase that gets all the press when it comes to boring cinema. But I'd like to nominate for your consideration, this movie is like watching Julia Roberts supervise a paint mix. Look, if your painter has this much paint on his coveralls, he's just a bad painter.
You're doing recon work on our anniversary?
And you're loudly calling him out on a phone about it?
What is it?
I'll tell you what it is. A costume budget that was clearly dominated by Andy Garcia in this movie. Literally.
Where is he, Tess?
Question, if you have the means to find what is essentially Danny's witness protection program house, why wouldn't you just wait for him to come home to confront him? Well, look, this is a perfectly good shot of Clooney on the phone, but don't you want to see the back of his head, too? That actually might not even be Clooney, but I'll take it.
Get up.
Yo, Manchester by the Sea was facing Terry during that long-ass toast, but he couldn't give Varsity Blues a heads up that their arch-nemesis was standing right by him? Also, that stupid f***ing cane. And maybe it's supposed to be stupid to show what an oaf Terry is, but it's f***ing stupid and annoying, and I hate it more than I hate Bash's accent. You were doing so well, movie. You show Rome at the beginning of the movie, and you restrained yourself from adding Italy, but now you're in Miami, and you have to stick a Florida on it, just in case people confused it with Miami, Oregon?
You don't expect me to embarrass myself in front of my new friend by finding commercial.
姐弟，你花太多钱了，你应该节约一下嘛。
On a budget? On a budget.
I know the fact that these interactions with Yen, with people speaking different languages, is the joke, but I'm sinning it. This kind of bullshit might fly in Star Wars. Well, actually, we sinned it in Star Wars, too.
You can't even get with the beat with all them bleeps in it.
Why would they be listening to the censored version of this song while in the studio? That happens long after the master's complete. The silly gag is as good a place as any for me to loudly say, as I could many times, movie has time for this! Also, can we pause for a second to think about Basher entering into a rap career? Has his interest in music or performing come up at any time before this?
Todd said I would understand.
No, Mr. Benedict.
Why does Benedict personally visit everybody across the entire f***ing world but not Bloom? And he gives Rusty a phone call. The actor is playing himself, but it's a totally f***ed up version cliche.
Jeez, Topher, you didn't have to go all Frankie Muniz on me.
This should just be called Hollywood, the movie. Get it?
I quit the show. I totally phoned in that Dennis Quaid movie.
Oh, so you're going to admit your failures in the movie in Good Company, but conveniently not mention Win a Date with Tad Hamilton? Also, calling in Good Company anything other than that Scarlett Johansson movie is an absolute sin. Benedict visited all of the Ocean's team to tell them they had 2 weeks to get him back his money with interest. So how did he go from East Haven, Connecticut, to Provo, Utah, to Miami, to East Orange, New Jersey, to London, to Chicago, and to Las Vegas in like a day? Even if he visited everybody before he visited Tess, why did the other Ocean's crew not alert Danny? And even if the movie is showing us all his travels out of order, and he made more sensible trips, the word would have gotten around about him before his surprise visits, right?
Now, you told me that your wife said that he called it Ocean 11. Now, who decided that?
Ocean's 12 is very quickly getting a Gremlins 2 vibe, where the second movie is making fun of the first movie and everything has a super loose feel to it where nobody gives a shit. They're going to argue about this why was it called Ocean's 11 bullshit for way too long.
$17.34 million, assuming Benedict gives us prime plus one, which I doubt.
How do they not know the exact interest they owe?
Didn't you see the signs? I saw the signs.
Elliot Gould's Ace of Base.
So we go abroad.
I blame this movie for inspiring the last 15 years of Adam Sandler's career, where he uses a movie as an excuse to travel to exotic locations with his buddies. Yes, I'm including Uncut Gems, because I'm an asshole, okay? Spelling. Also, thank God they didn't feel the need to spell out Netherlands too. Why the are they all checking in at the same time? I don't care if they're out of the country. The entire crew being seen together would raise some red flags for someone, right? Wow, it's like she can almost hear his rusty trombone. If you're going to bother to punctuate your screen titles, at least bother to write complete.
If all the animals along the equator were capable of flattery, then Thanksgiving and Halloween would fall on the same date.
This is all to confuse Linus and the audience because it's one big old waste of time.
If we do one job a week, at that rate, we won't pay Benedict off until...
September 2005.
Jesus Christ, Danny.
And after we pull this job off, Matsui's going to throw us another one next week. It's going to pay out 10 times this one.
How the f*** did these guys ever pull off the heist they pulled off in Ocean's 11? They don't communicate to each other in a normal way that makes sense. The first thing everyone should have known about the job that they were doing was that it was going to lead to a bigger job. They waste all this time arguing about nonsense that could easily be knocked out with a couple of details.
Every night at 1:30, he takes an Ambien and he puts on Beethoven's Third. By the fourth movement, he's out like a lights.
The fourth movement of the Eroica Symphony? The f***? It's the best part. It's like putting on Nirvana's In Utero and falling asleep before f***ing all apologies.
I mean, the National Institute of Mental Health estimates that 5.6% of adults develop agoraphobia at some point. Whatever.
First off, Linus knows this very specific statistic off the top of his head. Second, he knows this statistic, but doesn't know how to pronounce the f***ing disorder.
Well, I gotta sit down on the toilet, otherwise I'm gonna shit on your feet.
Really feels like Steven Soderbergh just set up a few cameras, hung a couple mics from the ceiling fan, told the guys to talk about something criminal, then went down the street to a hash bar to blaze the f*** up for the rest of the night, doesn't it?
You'll never have a life.
I don't want a life. I want the hotel to run like a hotel should.
These assholes talk about everything except the thefts that they're supposed to be plotting. Next thing you know, they'll be discussing the potential of John Kerry pulling out an October surprise in the upcoming election.
Anybody remember that scene in Miller's Crossing when John Turturro begs for his life?
Sure. Look into your heart.
We have no line of sight.
What the f*** does that have to do with Miller's goddamn crossing? I guess, yeah, look into your heart could mean let's face facts, but it's a big stretch. It sounds like you just wanted to bring up Miller's goddamn crossing. Brad Pittman is f***ing eating in every movie, man. F***ing shit. And chips, too. My kingdom for it not to be chips. Okay, so the Oceans team parked this boat outside of a paranoid shut-in's house who uses all sorts of surveillance, and nobody came by to check out why this new boat was parked here for so long. They also dragged all these huge hydraulic lifts through this tiny gate underwater, which is some total bullshit. Also, considering all the equipment, plumbing, and engineering that goes into this plan, how would they even make a profit off this heist, even if they did make the score? By the way, what good security system is going to have the keypad facing the window? And sure, the new keypad they put on the system makes it think it's armed. But the cameras, which are monitored 24/7 by a security company, are still working. How did they get past those?
The greatest thief of all time was, without question, Gaspar Lamarck.
Wow, Isabel just happens to be giving a lecture on legendary thieves, just as her ex and a bunch of those kinds of thieves are pulling off a stunt right next door. What are the... Oh, f*** it, this movie's lazy.
You know the name Max Schumann?
No.
Well, they do.
Isabel plays the pronoun game so that the other detective has to ask who the hell they are.
Congratulations. You are the second person to crack the Van der Woede safe tonight.
Okay, but the Oceans team had to do all sorts of shit to get into this house. How did the Night Fox?
I hired Matsui, and Matsui hired you.
But did they tell Matsui every step they were going to take, or even which night they were going to attempt this? I guess he could have had their room bugged, but wouldn't thieves of this sort of sophistication sweep for that shit? I'm just saying, the Night Fox goes out of his way to mock them without knowing anything about the plan.
So what about the information?
Okay. It's on your desk.
What a bunch of f***ing bullshit. Oh man, that's one of my favorite early aughts bands. The reason was the mad shit. Why the f*** does Rusty just go over to the door and answer it without looking through the peephole?
You here to take me in?
Why would I do that? It's not as if you stole something.
Sick burn, Belly. But, of course, he did steal something big a few years ago. Your heart. And for that, you should definitely take him in. Maybe do it right here and now. No rush. I'll wait. Also, can we talk about how ham-handed this flip-flop of the lost love interest angle for one of the leads is? In the first movie, it was Tess, and Rusty didn't find out until they were into the heist. In this movie, it's Isabel, and Danny doesn't find out until they're in Europe. By Ocean's 22, we're going to get the background of Saul's old flame Betsy, who will be played gracefully, of course, by a Dame Judi Dench.
I like this one.
Of course someone was following Rusty around, and of course they snapped a picture of him eating something because that's all Brad Pitt f***ing does.
The French police think he's better than Lamarck.
Jeez, this character's arc is solely to remark about Lamarck, meaning she's already jumped the shark, and I can guarantee you that the screenplay will embark on Lamarck to make him her dad.
Where'd she learn all that Schumann crap? Dad.
Oh, he was a cop?
Thief.
Oh, God, was he good?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going to mention that his name was Lamarck because that'll be a surprise later when she finds out her dad isn't dead.
Who's the guy in a $100 bill?
Oh, sure, the guy who this movie says makes all the money and can add complex mathematical figures in his head doesn't know who's on the $100 bill. Damn it, lady, don't touch your mouth or your face after touching someone else's phone. Haven't you seen Contagion?
We don't have a grease man anymore because she's in a bag somewhere. We don't know.
Hey, remember the hilarious time they put a tiny Asian guy in a duffel bag and he got lost with the luggage because he's tiny and fits in a duffel bag, and that is super funny? Ha 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 ha, ugh.
Let me ask you something. How old do you think I am?
Jesus, just blow each other already. Also, seriously, what does this have to do with f***ing anything? It's just as useless as the entire montage of planning the heist in Amsterdam, which only proved to facilitate the emergence of the Night Fox. This movie is as thin as that one-ply toilet paper they give you in prison. Also, did they just leave Frank to rot in jail in Amsterdam? Couldn't they devise some plan to break him out, or have an associate at least post bail for him before they did their next job? God damn, these are some awful people.
Can I ask you something? You ever notice that
If you're going to ask me a question, give me time to respond.
I remember this bit. I think Mitch Hedberg did it. Also, isn't it weird that the best thing to come out of this movie was Matt Damon's cameo in Eurotrip? Movie waits nearly 57 minutes to properly Vincent Cassel.
The bad news is he's rich, he's bored, he's talented.
Ocean's narration. It's at this point that Danny and the crew are going over all of Toulour's accomplishments, aliases, and familial background, and I have to wonder, why hadn't they heard about this motherfucker before? It took one, maybe two phone calls for all this info. They obviously knew Lamarck, and they know all the heists this asshole has done, and he leaves a fucking calling card at each one, so how is this just coming up now?
I guess the only way to know who's the best of us, for sure, is to go after the same object.
So there's the rub. The Night Fox put all of this into motion so that he could prove he was a better thief than Danny and he could get praise from his mentor. It only took an hour to get there. I feel like the whole movie could have started here and it would have been more fun.
You're being awfully cavalier with a lot of people's lives so you can play out a game.
Oh yeah, Danny has the moral f***ing high ground here. Sure, stealing from Terry wasn't bad because he's an asshole and the insurance covered his loss, but what about all the other poor bastards he's stolen from over his career? You don't think they were affected?
Do you have a message?
Yes, I do.
It's normal when we're dealing with the legal shit to just tell someone you don't know all about it.
Unless you can tell me what they are after, there is no point in discussing it.
Hold on a second there, Lou. Let me consult this sidewalk bench and conveniently figure it out while I have you on the phone. This goes on for some time.
You say the egg will be stolen. Then you say Lamarck already stole 24 years ago. Which one is it?
Both.
I'll wait until you ask me what I mean. I prefer to be cryptic when I need to be understood.
We'll have to risk it. We'll put him in disguise.
I distinctly hear Rusty eating an apple during this scene, and that makes him an asshole. But seriously, guys, what the f*** is up with Brad Pitt's eating? Whoa, how the did they build an exact replica of the museum within a day or so, down to the most minute details?
No. You got my message. Who's that sexy phone voice? Very early Bond.
I'll tell you what's super bullshit about Isabel stealing Rusty's phone. Rusty needs Eddie Izzard to make this hologram thing for the job to work, but he somehow didn't make arrangements for him to call, like, Danny or somebody in case he needed to tell him something. Furthermore, what's Rusty been doing about any of the phone calls he's needed to make for the last couple of days? And I guess nobody on the team's been able to reach Rusty and arrange meetings and whatnot. Pinky rings!
I didn't want it to end.
You assumed it would.
Skip!
Did you get the fax copy of the 1077? Good.
This movie 1077 so hard that I'm about to commit a 187 on it.
You know, I talked to the doctor about getting that tattoo removed.
Movie really tests the theory that the world wants to watch Brad Pitt and George Clooney statically sit on a couch watching dubbed Happy Days reruns and drinking wine for some time. I mean, it really tests it. Hey look, most of them got arrested, just as planned, because this movie's setup is a big old fugazi, and it not only gives the middle finger to the audience, it shoves it up their pee holes. Man, Vincent Cassel was committed to that Black Swan role. Unfortunately, he was cast as the director and not the prima ballerina, but it wasn't for lack of preparation.
Crazy Larry?
Not enough people.
The soft shoulder.
Not enough people.
Here's the problem with going through these cleverly named thieving techniques. It only works as a joke if the audience has the first goddamn clue about what they represent. I could suggest Turkey Flambe, or Jimmy Jism, or Cockadoodle Circus Peanut, and I guess they sound funny, but it's the most surface-level joke I could make.
What about Tess?
What about her?
Well, I mean, you know how she kind of looks like...
Oceans is about to make a meta-joke about how Tess looks like Julia Roberts so that they can pull off the heist using her as a celebrity distraction. But here's the thing. If Tess looks like Julia Roberts, then Danny looks like George Clooney, and Rusty looks like Brad Pitt, and Linus looks like Hilary Swank.
Oh, looky, Lou. With Tess. And a bundle of joy.
Yeah.
You've gone right out of your tree, my son. He's mad. It's madness.
This is supposed to make Jesse Plemons' idea sound insane so that the viewer will think this is some outrageous gambit. But it's no more insane than any other plan they've come up with in these two movies, and they have no choice because Benedict is going to supposedly kill them in 2 days. This is fake outrage that fake heightens the fake tension. How does the plane fly sideways? Why is the world sideways? God intended us to watch movie screens at a 90-degree angle, then we'd all have L-shaped necks.
She wasn't in 4 weddings and a funeral.
I wasn't in 4 weddings and a funeral.
There's meta-humor, and then there's Hollywood removing one of its ribs so it can properly fillet itself.
Well, I know. Of course.
Danny!
Oh, that's right. Julia Roberts is married to cinematographer Danny Motor, and her character Tess is married to Danny Ocean. It's pretty clever. Now, can we get on with it? I would say this is the most gratuitous Bruce Willis cameo ever, but then I've watched that terrible Joaquin Phoenix mockumentary, so let's sit them both.
Tallulah left her SpongeBob blanket in the red casita.
Okay.
So what I want to do is call Marcus and have him get a hold of Louise so we can make arrangements to send someone down there to get it.
I am kind of enjoying Tess playing Julia Roberts, and they've come up with some pretty clever shit during this thing. But it seems cheap that the way they add conflict to the scene is by Bruce Willis calling actual Julia Roberts' house to arrange getting his daughter's SpongeBob blanket back.
That phone away right now.
Are we going to address how Saul got here, and when, and how, and why we haven't seen him until the hotel suite, even though it would take nothing away from the movie to just show that earlier?
I just got off the phone with someone called Marcy, who just put you on a plane from Taos, New Mexico to LA, where you have a 1 o'clock meeting about a film, Clowns Can't Sleep.
Wow, the truth sounds less convincing than Tess's attempt to impersonate Julia Roberts. Movie thinks that we need to show every individual's perp walk, complete with 70s-style zooms.
You told Dad?
Dun dun dun! She's Linus's mom, which is a total surprise to anyone who's never seen a movie, play, television, or read a book, magazine, newspaper, or microfiche. Also, she introduced herself as Section Chief Molly Starr. Section Chief of f***ing what? Is she FBI? How does she have any authority here in Rome? That she was able to finagle her way into the situation is the biggest convenience in the movie. Hard to believe, but there's almost 20 minutes left in this f***ing movie.
Your father's alive, is he?
Dynamite! Honestly, I'm pretty sure this movie has more endings than the finale of the 1812 Overture. What a tragic waste of Bernie Mac in this movie.
Well, you must have very good contacts.
Pretty much sums up the entire explanation for all the impossible shit everyone does in this movie.
Why did my recon team see you?
Don't touch my thing. I didn't touch your thing.
Get your hand off it like it works anyway.
Okay, sure, the Malloys didn't see the Night Fox because they were arguing, but is that what he was planning on happening? What was his plan if they had sent Basher there instead? The movie has actually made Night Fox way better than this when it comes to not being detected. Brake thieving! Also, yes, this scene is kind of cool. In fact, it's kind of awesome, but they went out of their way earlier to say the lasers are random. So no amount of training would prepare him for how they're going to go that night. Not to mention, what kind of f***ing lasers are visible at all times? That's not how lasers work. That's how movie lasers work. Now that he's through the laser field, how did he get back out with the egg? Did he do the same gymnastics and miraculously make it through twice in one night? I find it super hard to believe that the priceless Fabergé egg would be in an aisle seat on a train, regardless of how sneaky and unsuspecting it is that such a treasure would be transported this way. And stuff like this is the exact reason why. If this happens at all, it would be on a back window seat with plainclothes guards on both sides of the aisle to prevent like this.
And I stole a replica?
Yeah, and it's kind of amazing that the egg wasn't examined before putting it on display to make sure that it wasn't the replica. Museums have experts, right? And the egg handlers would make sure before handing it over that it's the real thing? At least you'd think.
The security code is 2311...
646. Thank you.
How'd you do that?
Well, I told you one story tonight. I think that'll be enough.
Translation, the movie doesn't know.
Whose house is this?
Belongs to a thief I know in Paris.
He knows my father?
She got on the plane with him to come here after he said her father wasn't dead. Who the f*** do you think it is? I guess when you've been lied to by Rusty so many times, it's tough to believe, but why would he lie about this?
If, God forbid, anything does happen to you, we will not be involved.
This asshole is just going to work with Danny's crew now? What's his motivation? He's been doing great as a lone thief. And what exactly does he have against Benedict? And cue the curtain call, standing ovation, shots of bravo and brava from the audience. Take a bow, collect a massive check, and, well, I guess just stay at your own villa that you filmed this in.
Want money? Fight for it. You and me.
What are you doing here?
I'm going to ask you some questions, and if I don't like your answers, you're going out the window.
But you see the man with the briefcase?
Yes?
That's my partner. He has a gun in there. And if you don't do exactly what I tell you, or if you give me any kind of a problem at all, I'm going to look over at my partner, and he's going to shoot your Mr. Gwendon between the eyes.
There was evidence in this room of excessive consumption of almost every type of drug known to civilized man since 1544 A.D.
I mean, what's wrong with you? You hump a baseball glove? I didn't. I just used it for cleanup.
Did you know if you mixed equal parts of gasoline and frozen orange juice concentrate, you can make napalm? No, I did not know that. Is that true? That's right. One can make all kinds of explosives using simple household items. Really? If one were so inclined.
James Bond. Charming, sophisticated secret agent. Shaken but not disturbed.
Marco just seemed to be a bit more glamorous, you know? More sure of himself. Less hard work.
They get 2 weeks to buy themselves out of trouble.
You sound like a parakeet there. 2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a really good deal. But I think I got a better one. How about I give you the finger, and you give me my phone call?
Aren't you like a week
What
overdue?
are you doing in Rome? It took you so long.
Traffic was a bitch.
Eric, enough with the Star Wars crap. Whenever you talk about that stuff, I frown, and when I frown, my skin wrinkles. And if I get wrinkles, my free ride is over, and I like my free ride.